right, welcome to the nitty gritty. We're back, week 91. Wait, is that right, Brent? Week 91? 91 weeks straight. I don't think I've ever done anything for 90 weeks straight.
Nope.
You don't have to celebrate it. Jeez. I'm feeling really picked on right now. Okay? Can't wait.
That actually wasn't meant for you. That's like together.
I understand.
But it's more funny that you took it that way. Especially after our pre-podcast conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Where I was scoffed at. And judged.
Yep.
It's a funny story. We'll play it at the end of the podcast. We were recording it. I'm just kidding. So we are sitting down with someone that should be very near and dear to your heart because she creates happiness for all.
Aww. For everyone.
Megan Faulkner Brown. MFB. That's what I call her.
A lot of people call me that, actually.
Wait, do they really?
Yeah.
It's good initials.
Anna. Anna's like one of my
she's awesome.
bestest friends. And she'll call me MFB.
Before I forget, this is the Sweet Tooth Fairy.
This is the one and only.
We need to add a plot. Like, we need to get some sound effects to the podcast.
Oh my
like, that should be a standing ovation. Like, oh my gosh.
Like right there.
Her.
No.
Bull. This is partially your fault. And I'm pointing at myself.
I'm going to say, though, I don't know if I believe that it's really her because we don't have anything in front of us.
Yeah, that's, here's why I'm not super bad.
Totally calling you out right now.
Because tell me if you think this gets really annoying. Everywhere I go, everyone's like, do you have any brisket? I can kick you in the nuts, though, if you want me to.
You don't have any pocket meat?
Yeah, pocket meat. Like, that's an old joke.
No. So, okay, well, first of all, thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm so happy to be here. Number one. Number two, I do have treats for you. They are in my car.
Oh, yes.
Chilling while we
Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll start leaving brisket in my car.
Just chill.
If somebody says, I'm like, oh, hold on. Yeah, I'll get you some.
Okay.
I put it in there on Monday last week, but...
But it's been a nice 37 degrees outside, so it should be fine.
Refrigerator. Well, welcome.
Yeah.
We're excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. And I have to say, I don't get sick of it because it's like my love language. It is.
Well, maybe I need to look at it differently then.
It is. I mean,
here's the thing. It's way easier to carry cake
cookies,
or a cupcake or cookie.
Yes.
Then
maybe
it's a little cuter.
But it's such a dry climate. It's got to be tough on your product as well, right?
It's a dry heat.
It's a hard. It's a dry heat. It's not bad. It's a dry heat. Oh my gosh. So yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
It just seems like such a you don't know how to be social, so you just ask me that. You know what I mean? Just say what's up. My name is whatever, and I love Bam Bams or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, maybe I get mad because I feel like I let someone down. I'm like, well, no, I don't. I'm sorry.
Could be. I think I've just always been wired that way because my mom was obsessive. What we talked about before with our dear EJ and her no, but I'm saying she's from the time I was a little girl, right? It was humans have just needs that need to be taken care of. Feeding that people need to eat. And so a way for me to show you I love you is that I feed you and feed the neighborhood and the friends and all the people who come over. So it's just it's part of my DNA.
So your mom was the hostess of the neighborhood?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I grew up in Costa Mesa.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about, yeah.
See, we know it's going to be a good episode when there's a 30-minute pre-podcast discussion. Yeah. And they're all things that are off the record.
Yeah.
Everything's off the record.
If only you knew the real me, people.
But I do like to say I was born in Inglewood because I was.
Oh, okay.
So that's where I get my little...
No wonder you and Eve are such good friends.
Yes. Where I
Inglewood. That's a hood. Well, now it's being gentrified.
Yeah.
Hard. But I scored my very first hockey goal in organized hockey in the Great Western Forum.
I love it. And the fact that it was still called the Great Western
Forum. But hold on.
Back then. Amen.
Did you really play hockey?
I did. Before I was fat.
Is that real, though?
Yeah. We almost have to tell the story now.
We have to. Backstory on that.
We can't.
Okay.
He's a phenomenal hockey player.
I'm very graceful. No, when she asked me if I had played hockey, because we have a mutual acquaintance that plays hockey. She's like, "Did you play hockey?"
No, I said,
no.
did
She
you
didn't
play
say,
at BYU?
Did you play football at BYU?
No, she
Something.
said, "Did you play it? Did you play at BYU?"
Well, that's a very general question.
It is general.
Because
And I answered with hockey, and she just laughed like, "You're so funny."
Not
What? Wait, what did you
like
really
a
play?
hard laugh, like
Yeah, it was kind of judgmental.
like I might have snorted even.
It's like ice skates on you. No, it had to be rugby or football.
No, and then in fairness to my question, as it unraveled, I have a deep-seated love for hockey and was exposed to it quite a bit growing up. So there you go.
She did date briefly, very briefly, one of my teammates from when I played.
Yeah. And
Now he's a doctor.
of the fake team.
Yeah, of our fake team that wasn't really BYU. I mean, it's kind of true. When I played, it wasn't BYU. It was the Provo Ice Cats. But anyway.
So fun.
So growing
fun.
up,
Anyway,
so your mom was,
I'll just be over here.
was it hosting, like cooking anything, or is it specifically baking? Like growing up, was it just all around you?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm the youngest of 5 kids. And and up until I was a freshman in high school, my mom didn't work. And so it was a very like traditional, right? Like my dad was an entrepreneur, did, all the fun, crazy entrepreneurial things. But like, it was like every day there was a warm, delicious dinner. She's a hyper planner, very organized. So I just grew up like in the kitchen with her. And I think as the youngest, for those of us who have children, right? Like by the time the youngest rolls around, you're just kind of like, whatever.
You're tired.
Right?
You're just let them do whatever they want.
You're just like, as long as you're still breathing and like whatever, like great.
Totally true.
So like but then coupled with the, coupled with this like mind frame of which I subscribe to, of like, we need to take care and make sure that like our people and our husbands and our brothers and like they're fed. She would never say this, but it's like, because they kind of can't do it themselves.
That's also really
right?
true.
I mean, I can cook some things now.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, you're right.
Right. So it was a very kind of like traditional mindset growing up. Like, and I say old school, and I don't think it's bad. I'm like, some days as an entrepreneur and as like a bakery owner, right, where you're like, if I could just stay home and the husband could go to work, and I don't say that to like diss on anyone who has that set up, because that's literally amazing. But so there was just this very traditional, just kind of like, right. So it was very food centric.
Isn't it
very
sad
family.
that you feel like you have to explain all that?
Yeah.
I hate how things are now.
We can't just like say something and not worry about.
Well, yeah, things were different, but it's just.
But it worked.
Things evolve and change.
Yeah,
It's a big deal.
and it still does work, right? And and it's just different for everyone. But yeah. So like my brothers played, sports, and like after their games, their teams would come over, and I'd be in the kitchen like making cookies, just always like trying to like make people feel welcome. And we, back home, it's not like they're, well, at least where we were, it was like a 3-bedroom, 1,400 square foot home that,
Isn't that funny?
7 of
now
us
it's
lived
worth
in.
$7 million.
She literally just sold it for $7 million. Just kidding. No, she did just move here, and your mind would be blown.
Oh no,
Like,
I know.
It's insane.
Like, we think real estate's expensive here, and it has gotten expensive, but it still has nothing on what you can get here for.
Oh yeah,
compared to what you can get there is insane.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a long, drawn out answer. If like it's just always been it's like my expression of me being like, oh, I care about you, or like, oh, it's just a fun little thing that you know.
I mean, there wasn't like necessarily a moment where it was like, okay, this clicked. It was just that was second nature to you growing up with it.
Totally.
Okay.
Totally. And then my
like how did you know you were good?
Oh,
people kept coming back to the house.
I don't know that I've ever gotten to that point.
Well, based on what I'm reading right now, she's pretty damn good.
No, I think, okay. So growing, okay, let me rewind. So mom never worked until I was like a freshman.
Yeah.
Oh, she worked.
Yes.
No, I know.
In a different way, right? But like, so then when I was like 12 and 13 years old, during the summer with my best friend, and my brother got to take his best friend, and one summer my sister, we went and moved to Mount Vernon, Washington, and lived on a berry farm.
That's random.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Why
Did
Mount
you and
Vernon?
your siblings?
Lived on a farm, and I picked berries all summer long. Yes.
Why?
Because, well, my dad was partners with the man who owned the berry farm.
Okay.
My dad was like into all sorts of it, all the things. So my parents were like, you're going to learn how to work. Right. And so I went and got to wear my overalls every day and just from literally sun up to sundown, picked blueberries. They did have a machine that like, I picked the blueberries. The raspberries, it's called a Corvan. It's like this machine that hugs the aisles of all the berries and shakes them down. So we're just like up on the top plucking out, like, I Love Lucy and the conveyor belt. Anyway,
I was doing that.
I did that with my grandma, and they never made it to the basket.
yeah.
I love raspberries.
So then my mom and dad, my mom loved, loved to bake. When she went and started working for my uncle, that's who she went and started working for when I was 14. She was an administrative assistant. He was a developer. He developed the Anaheim Hilton and Towers, just across from Disneyland.
Okay.
Yeah, he actually did the St. Regis up here too. It's kind of a big deal.
Dang,
Anyway,
that is.
Okay.
So my mom, naturally, like if it's someone's birthday at the office, she would bring in treats. Or if it's a holiday, she's bringing in treats. Well, so it was very regular. It was very often that she would bring in her stuff. Well, one time, one of like the head honchos was like, we've got to get these cookies on our concierge floor, like the fancy pants floor. And so my mom kind of thought that they were like joking, but then he's like, no, seriously, like we would order these, we'd buy them from you. So then my dad, who was the entrepreneur in the family, was just like, after my mom mentioned to it, was just like, yes, well, we'll figure it out. So then we rented kitchen space in Costa Mesa, off hours from a bakery, and we made cookie dough all into the wee hours of the night.
How cool is that?
And like full
That
circle.
is so awesome.
Like,
Wow.
so then we would sell it. We sold it to the Hilton, and then
Just the
some of
cookie
the
dough,
school.
or would you actually bake them?
So it wasn't until we would bake them eventually, but for primarily it was just the dough, because then they would put it in their freezers and they could bake them fresh, and it was just better for them, like inventory system wise. And then that kind of fizzled and faded. But we did it, and it was so fun because like we would bring our friends in, and back at the time, I swear, I want to say we were making like $5 under the table, but like, excuse me, but like that was kind of a lot of money. Maybe it was like 6 or 7. I don't know.
I mean, how old were you? 14, 15?
Yeah. Back in the day. I mean, I'm only 29,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. But I mean, 13 years ago.
Back in like 2008.
Yeah.
yeah.
Things were very different.
So, and so then, but all of our friends, it was just so fun, right? Because like even on school nights, our friends' parents would be like, okay, you're like with the Faulkners, you're scooping cookie dough, like you're not getting into trouble, you're earning money. Sure. Like we don't care that you're out till midnight, doing this. So then, and then I started working at a bread bakery called the Sunflower Bakery is in Costa Mesa. It's right on the border of Newport Beach, which is so pretty and so fun. And I did that all throughout high school. Excuse me. So and even when I was in college, I came to BYU, and like I'd go home during the holidays or the summer, and I would work there
At the bakery?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I've kind of always like done
Always been in
something, something food related. Well, then I came here to school, and I worked at Pizza Factory. And I was like, I would use a derogatory term about myself, but I'm like, I just get to hang out at the salad bar. That's all I do. I just like refill garbanzo beans. Like, what is happening here? And everyone's so messy and not thoughtful, and they're just all the fake bacon bits are just splatted everywhere.
That is so funny.
But then, so I just, again, but I still was like, you know, if it was someone's birthday, I was like the first one to be like, okay, tell me what your favorite cake is, right? Or if it was a holiday, we'd have parties. I lived in a house right by Kiwanis Park with a bunch of my cousins for several years. So you know how BYU is, right? It's like there's a house that
Yeah, 74 people.
Yeah. So we would have people over all the time, and I just like, we'd have dinner nights, dessert nights, and I just would like take it on myself to kind of just pull it all together. Not just because I was like, I'm so used to this. I'm so used to like helping prep food for a million people, and just like having a good variety of treats and whatnot. And you know, my old trick was, you're welcome to use it sometime, but I would go to the dollar store and I just buy a $1 box of, you know, cake mix and a $1 can of the nasty frosting that's all actually kind of good.
Right.
You admit it?
Right.
Yeah. And then I just buy like the duplex cookies, and I'd bake the cake and I'd frost it up and I'd like crush the cookies on the side and, you know, put it, and it like blew people's minds, right? I'm like, I'm into this like $3, you know, but like, okay, cute boy, I'm trying to impress. That's not impressed, but like, I don't care.
Probably was impressed.
Box cake.
Yeah.
I know. So, yeah. So again, it's always just been like a creative outlet. It's just been something I've loved to do. And I think, you know, my parents are the most wonderful. They're wonderful. And I always felt very secure as a kid, because like their relationship was, I mean, and I wouldn't have been able to articulate it this way when I was that age, but like looking back and as I've adulted here for a minute, like they just they were always on the same team.
Right.
I literally, and I know people will eye roll at this, but like I never, ever witnessed any discord between the two of them. Super supportive of each other, very different people, like totally different interests. They weren't like, we're going to go mountain biking together. Never. Right. But like, it didn't bother them. Right. It was like, you do you, boo, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but I think, you know, just reflecting upon that, I like it made for a very secure foundation in my home. And I kind of felt like, oh, well,
give you the confidence to do anything.
I can kind of do anything if I am not so lazy that I choose not to, you know?
Yep.
So anyway, so then should I just keep going?
No. So
yeah.
Is this, I'm like, I don't know.
You finished with BYU. I was just reading. So baking. So it's funny, like you did it because you loved it.
Just
right?
Straight up loved it.
Which is so,
yeah.
I feel like anybody that's successful in some type of food or cuisine, like that has to be the foundation of it, right? You can't just decide what you want to cook and just say, I got to go learn how to do it. But so what, after school or after you finished BYU, you did something kind of cool.
So
I'll let you tell it, but yeah, it's not baking.
No. So, and it kind of happened a little bit during, but what happened was, so there was a semester of school where I couldn't afford tuition because we had to contribute. Like my parents helped where they could, you know, but and so, but there was just a semester where it like wasn't working, right? And so my sister had moved to Washington, D.C. and was working on Capitol Hill. And so she was like, just come and live with me out here, defer for a semester. We'll find something and you can just save money, right? And I was like, okay, you know, that sounds fun. So I moved to Washington, D.C. and I was an intern for not Bill Clinton. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. So I was an intern for then Congressman Chris Cannon. And the way that
how did that happen?
Yeah. So it was total just serendipity, divine intervention, whatever you want to call it. But, my sister knew that like, okay, all these congressional offices, they have these internships, but normally the college, there's like a whole program and they go through the like poli-sci departments at different colleges, USU, the U, BYU. So there were like scores of these college students who were applying to have one internship in one congressional, in his office anyway. And that year there was just like a total oversight, and that whole process didn't happen. And my sister had a colleague who was working in the office at the time, and they were like, a human with a heartbeat who can answer a phone, like, we'll take her. So I got this like paid, internship.
That's super cool.
Yeah. And it just kind of like slid right in. And then for 9 years, I didn't stay an intern for 9 years, but for 9 years, I worked as for Chris Cannon. I was a federal employee.
Wow.
I went
DC?
back and forth between DC and Utah. Yeah.
Okay.
So when I went to BYU, deferred, came back to BYU, then I left BYU unwed, shall I mention? And there you go.
Just kidding.
Scoff. There's the scoffing. And then I also had never given a talk at church too. I felt like that was a little bit of a badge of honor, having been there for a little bit. Anyway, no. So then I went.
This sounds like a fake story.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And so then I was done with BYU, and then I still, like, because I'd had the internship, Chris's office was in downtown Provo in the old county courthouse. Right. So I was like, this is rad. So they offered me a position to work in the district office. And it was great because I could do it while I was still at BYU. And so it was a really awesome, really great setup. I'm still close with a lot of the people that I work with. It's like a family, and
Right.
and just as a side note, it's like I look back now and just with all the everything, and just I'm like, I don't know how I survived the political up and downness of being in that world for so long. Like now I'm like I can hardly even like function when it's like an election year,
Right.
not just for presidential, but like congressional every
Right.
couple years. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. I was just too young and dumb to even like understand probably like anxiety, but
Sure.
but yeah, so it's very different than, doing cupcakes and cookies and cakes. But my good friend Corey, one time, so like my mom, and like I was talking about before, like if it was ever your birthday or, I had like a calendar of my coworkers' birthdays, which I still weirdly do with my friends too.
Right.
'Cause I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't, forget this. But,
March
and then
24th.
there we go.
Just
Okay,
so you
it's
know.
coming up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yay. Okay.
November 14th.
Oh, we just
42
missed it.
cupcakes would be pretty awesome.
Yes. So I brought 42 cupcakes in my car chilling. Just kidding. No, so like, and on holidays and any significant, anything, I was like, okay, what can I bring? Or what fun new recipe can I try? So I was just always bringing stuff in to the office. Well, one day he was kind of like, you should do this. Like you should get a business license and like do this, And I'm like, I didn't understand words or things. I was just like, so he kind of like put the seed, like he's the one that kind of like planted that a little bit, and I didn't really like pay much attention to it because I was like, well, I work here and this is great. And I love to bake and create and cook and like do those things. But I just don't think I ever in that moment foresaw like, oh, you're right. Like I'm going to jump into this, just like all.
It's funny
all
how
the way.
it takes somebody to like,
Someone else to say something.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
it's probably a lot like, when I started cooking barbecue, I mean, well before the restaurant or even when I started competing and stuff, it was just probably for the exact same reason you like to do it. Just, I love seeing people eat the food and be stoked about it. And it just, feels good.
Yeah, well, it's like therapeutic,
Right.
right? Where you're kind of like, I can zone out of everything and just like figure out how to make this work or how to make it look right or how, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like tweak, and you don't have to deal with reality. You're just like, where am I going to put this sprinkle? Like all I'm worried about right now is this very sprinkle.
So were you making the type of things you make now? I mean, like were your treats because you loved it? Did you make elaborate cakes and all the fancy kind of stuff you do now?
Yeah. So yes. I mean, I would say I've hopefully improved as a. It's like hard for me to call myself an artist.
You're an artist.
Absolutely.
I swear on everything.
But I understand what you're saying.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for real, pastry chef, right? That's
well, I mean, not like I didn't like actually go to pastry school, and it's hard for me to pronounce the French one. So
cordon bleu.
Yes.
No, just kidding.
They're fancy French, fun little foods and stuff. But
baking is art. I mean, that's art.
I promise it was within the last couple years where I was like, I think that maybe I might maybe be. I think I'm an artist.
Not after the 37 national and local TV appearances and massive national awards from Food Network. Like, yeah,
winning
maybe I'm an artist.
Pretty well known show.
Yeah.
No, I swear, it's yeah. No.
Imposter syndrome is real, people. We all deal with it.
Yes.
Every day.
Maybe it's healthy.
Keeps you a little humble. Keeps you hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a little scared.
Yeah.
Which is healthy.
Yes. So the interesting thing is that like I was, at BYU, went to DC, came back to BYU, then wasn't married, was still working for Chris, doing all this stuff on the side. Well, then I meet my now husband, Ethan, and we, dated and got married during all of this. So when Eth came along, I was like done at BYU, working for Chris. Like I had bought a house with my brother. Like I was just kind of at this phase in my life where, I didn't necessarily fall into the like, I'm an old maid because I'm like 20 and not married,
You moved on.
Yeah.
You were progressing through.
Yes. I was just like, I'm a woman, hear me roar softly. Hear me roar. So anyway, then I continue to work for Chris. Ethan's in school still. I'm, helping, kind of put him through school here and there. And he works up at Sundance at the Foundry Grill, and we're just like doing our thing. Well, he finishes school, starts working at a tech company, and then my boss loses his re-election campaign in the primary election in June. Okay, so it's June.
Dumb Jason.
Right? Yeah. I worked for Jason for a month.
I don't know if I like it or not. I just read that. I wanted to sound smart. Oh, yeah, Jason Chaffetz. I remember that.
Yeah.
Sure.
I like transitioned his whole like team into the office. So I was still worked for him. But so then Ethan had yet to start working at this tech company. So it was June. And how it works is you have, till essentially December that I still knew I had a job till then, but I was like, oh boy, okay. Like,
I don't know if people handle working in that world.
How's this all going to be?
Right?
Oh, it's literally.
Because your whole livelihood depends on the candidate.
And it's
right.
And
it's every other year too. Yeah. Every other year. Yes, it's every 2 years that you actually vote.
Sure.
But it's an on election year, it's an off election year, and you're on or you're off. And when it's just, I'm so glad that.
Oh, I'll bet.
So glad that's not part of. Yeah.
But man, if you think about it, it probably is really handy to have that stress management before ever opening a restaurant.
Yes.
Like, because that's.
Yes.
It probably didn't feel as crazy to you as it does to most people when they originally jump into it.
Yeah, right? Because you're like, I've had these highs and lows and these extremes, and like, yes, I've experienced that. So we find out in June that he loses in the primary. And then, I was like, I've always knew I wanted to open a store someday, right? It was like, someday. And at the time we had, 2 little tiny humans. They were like 1 and 2, and I was like, let's do it. Let's open a store, So I still had that 6-month kind of grace period that all you wonderful taxpayers continue to pay me until my boss was, I didn't have a job anymore. And Ethan started working for the tech company. So he, we had this like regular, gig. Well, I had no idea what I was doing. I just drive around Provo, like looking for available signs stuck in, windows. Like, oh, we could rent that little place and,
like
do
looking
it
for a little storefront.
Just looking for a little storefront because up until then I would like meet people in like obscure parking lots off the freeway, like a drug deal.
Were you selling stuff at that time?
Okay, I'll be there at 4:07 with your cake. Like, let's do this, because I didn't want people coming to my house.
So you were selling stuff though?
Yeah. So I was selling stuff.
Okay.
And because of my kind of connection with Chris, and my affinity for like feeding and hosting and stuff, I would, if he had campaign events or if he needed stuff for donors or whatnot, like he would hire me sometimes, and I would cater events for him, and I would do gift baskets for, so then a little bit kind of, my name was just a little kind of hovering out there. So then by the time, we went to actually open, well, let me rewind. So then I just was doing it out of my house for 3 years before we opened the store, which, by the way,
that's awesome.
Tomorrow, January 29th, is the 12-year anniversary of our opening.
Is it really?
Wow.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dang, congratulations.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, huh?
It's way cool.
Yeah, well, in 3 years, so it's like 15 years of the sweet.
I wonder how many cupcakes I've eaten.
42.
No, a lot more than that. I used to go to the Provo store all the time. The one down in East Bay.
Yeah. Before.
By Reams.
Yep. Did you get you some cowboy boots too while you were there?
They never had big enough. Stupid stores.
Yeah.
The internet saved me.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't have the internet, I would never be able to buy clothes.
Okay, wait, which time out for 1 second and I'll go back to the story, but is that a Shaquille O'Neal chair?
No.
Did you know that they have?
No, I did not. In fact, I just bought this chair and I don't like it. My
hear
other
me out.
big and tall one just bit the dust.
My sweet brother. So my brothers are behemoths, much like yourself. And I say that with all the love. I say that with all the love.
Right.
And so this one, and my brother Johnny works with us. And anyway, he came back. He had run to the Office Depot and he was like, "You guys, I know what I need in my life, Dude," he's like, "I went to Office Depot. There was a chair, like a model chair for people to sit in, and it's a Shaquille O'Neal branded chair. So it's chairs for giants." Look at that.
I'm buying one right
Dude. So we got him one for
Chairs
Christmas.
for giants.
Yeah.
I think you missed your mark of marketing.
No, but here's the thing. And so then
It's her fault that there's so many giants. If you think about it.
Very true.
She contributes to that.
No, so then
Shaquille should write you a letter.
I just never understood that this is where I'm going to get all compassionate. I just never understood.
It sucks.
Where he's like, your head, you can never put your head anywhere. You're just like, you're folded like a taco in on yourself in every chair that you sit in.
For sure.
So it's changed his life. So.
Oh, it's big. I mean, airplanes, movie theaters, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like chairs are built for average sized people.
Absolutely.
Like have you ever watched that Andre the Giant documentary?
No.
Everyone should watch it, whether you liked him or not. It's pretty fascinating, what he accomplished. But homeboy had to fly commercial everywhere he went.
Yeah.
Like he used to have to pee in a bucket back in the like stewardess lounge.
No.
For international flights, they would he couldn't walk into the bathroom.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So people don't realize, like, if you're tall, it's hard to find somewhere to comfortably sit.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I didn't know what I was doing, driving around Provo looking for just places. Well, nowadays, the thought of like calling an actual realtor to be like, "Hey,
Right.
Hell.
can you like do some, demographic studies and like give me some information about that?" None of that. Just no. So anyway, so I was like, okay, we'll give it a try. So we got into a 1-year lease down in East Bay. And my cute grandma, Mimi, she lent me $17,000, which was so much money. I'd never seen that big of a check before. And we paid her back, and I just would like obsessively shopping on Craigslist and KSL for all the things, all
the kitchen supplies, everything.
Oh yeah. My friend Channing, she actually had a bundt cake factory in Provo. I don't know if you remember this, Channing's Bundt Cake Factory. And she sold me the majority of like our kitchen equipment.
Okay.
So I scored there because she had decided to close her store. But all the display cases and the furniture and just everything. It was very like hodgepodge, but it worked, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm like, if I have a mixer and an oven and some ingredients, then like, then I can make this work.
Used to cook. It's so funny. I remember with June Pies, right? Like talking to her about moving from just cooking in your house to a real convection oven where it's like, no matter what rack I cook on, they all cook evenly.
Yes.
Like that had to feel, and I'm sure your stuff was amazing, but you probably had to watch it a lot more just because,
sure.
Residential ovens are so up and down.
Yes, for sure. Well, and even going from like being able to use a full size sheet pan,
right?
At home you can't, like they don't fit, so it's like I can bake so many cookies.
Exactly.
Where'd the name come from?
At the same time. So I get that question a lot, and no joke, I swear. So when I first got my business license, I was like homemade catering, but I spelled made MAID, and my logo was a little like French made. And then I was like,
best uniforms. That would have been
yes.
Win.
Yes, exactly. And then I was like, this like sweet trend. Like I was looking for something to stick, right? So I was just obsessively thinking and like, and then I'm no joke, in the middle of the night, one night I woke up and I was like, Sweet Tooth Fairy. So I like went and like, gone online and I'm looking at everything, and I trademarked it on LegalZoom that night in 2006. Cause I was like, how has no one used that name before?
Right.
So for like 3 years under Sweet Tooth Fairy in my home, in my kitchen basement across from Kiwanis Park in Provo, I just did everything. And then on January 29th of 2009, we opened the first store.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
So the East Bay one was the first one?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, now there's is it TJ Maxx, or there's like they totally
I was going to say I have not been down there for
ever. Yeah. You don't go south of the train tracks.
Yeah, ew.
Gross.
Sick.
So when did Cupcake Wars come about? and how did that happen?
Okay, so one of our customers reached out to Cupcake Wars
for you.
They said, "Hey, So one of my, I'm giving to it doesn't matter anyway. I'm like, how bad?
Going too detailed?
Detailed do you want me? Right. Anyway, they reached out to me.
Okay.
And they said, hey, just came across your company. Well, but before then, while I was still at home, one of the things that I think kind of like helped catapult us was I got an email from Rachel Ray's show.
Okay.
And it was like, hey, we have this feature called the Snack of the Day where, part of like the requirements is that you're just like a small kind of independently owned business,
right.
And, I opened it. I thought it was like one of those, you have $1 million.
Right. Publishers Clearinghouse.
Yeah.
Like, okay, sure. Anyway.
Scam.
Yeah. But no, sure enough, it was
Wow.
Rachel. It was Rachel Ray's people. And so we did all of that. And in our basement kitchen, we provided cake bites for, we sent like 900 or so packages out. to her studio. So then we had this little segment, and it was like the tiniest, littlest blip, right? Kind of right before one of the commercial breaks where she's like, oh, okay, you know, today's snack of the day.
Isn't that so funny? It's like the most stressful week of your life, probably. Like shipping all this and it's just like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So like, did you go on the show then?
No. So we just shipped all of our stuff onto the show.
What kind of stuff were you making? So as you were getting started, like.
Yeah. So cookies. So primarily actually everything but cupcakes. No joke.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Because I was doing a lot of gift baskets. Mm-hmm. I did a ton of cakes. My husband, Ethan, we'll have to have him back sometime because he's so fun. But he's actually super artistic and like can sculpt. So we would do like a ton of fondant cakes together.
Wow.
Okay. That was kind of right when Ace of Cakes was popping, you know, with Duff Goldman. And so people would be like, oh, can you make this, you know, 3D snake cake?
You guys were kind of ahead of the curve.
Yeah. I mean, thanks.
I mean, really. And you're probably part of the reason why like baking just started. I mean, barbecue, it was kind of the same thing around 2009, 2010. Yeah. Like that's one of the other popular things that the Food Network started latching on to.
Yeah, totally.
Baking was the same. And
Totally.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So we would do
basically everything but cupcakes almost.
But I mean, I had recipes and stuff, but it just wasn't, we were doing so many cakes that I was.
Was it just you baking still?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
So I mean, how much would you bake in a day?
Oh, I mean, that's hard to quantify because it just was more like a time thing. It was just like forever, all day.
You couldn't really count it because it just kept going.
Well, so what happened though? So we opened our store January, like 2 months later, and my husband, you know, we have our 2 little kids. I'm the main baker.
Yep.
You know, we had converted one of the little closets that they had there to a makeshift little playroom for the kids. Okay. Yeah. Threw down some carpet, put in a TV, and just toys, right?
That's
so it was like,
cool.
So they were like raised, you know, in the bakery. So Ethan would
sugar to shut them up.
Yeah, I know, right? Don't talk to me. Just watch your screen and eat some sugar.
We patted the walls after a year in.
Yeah.
Because we gave him too much sugar.
So, and so he would get us there in the morning. He'd kind of help get us set up. He'd go to work.
Yeah.
He'd come back. He'd help with dishes. Like it was just all inclusive.
I love how nonchalant everything is. Like just how there's so much. It's such a cool story. I mean, even going all the way back to selling cookies to Hilton, like it's so cool that all of that shaped kind of the inevitable, right? Like even working in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Like how the freak that, like what a detour. But
yeah, totally.
I mean, what a really, probably a very important part of the detour, just because I'm sure you learned how much you could handle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And how to like not go insane.
Kind of like a barometer.
That's got to be such a crazy world. And then
if you can handle an election, you can handle anything.
For real. and I mean, but then just, you're talking about getting the store and being smart enough to ask for some demographic info and just doing everything right. And then still being a full-time mom and a full-time entrepreneur and just figuring it out. You know what I mean? Well, I think it's important because that's the whole point of the podcast, right? Is to just show like if there's a will, there's a, you know, when there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
And when anyone starts, nobody knows what they're doing.
Nobody knows.
No one knows what they're doing.
No. Like absolutely not.
But people get so scared that their business plan isn't just right, or they don't have this, or they don't have that. And it's like, just do something.
Yeah.
How many people probably think that they have, like, I can't start the business because I can't afford daycare?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? You know what I mean? Like, paint a little child prison.
Yeah.
And convert a little closet into the padded room, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, they probably love it. And what a cool memory. And what a cool part of the story.
Yeah.
Because it is the epitome of, you know, if there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
And you did it. And you just thought it was so normal.
Yeah. Well, and you know, my dad, he plays a big part of my life, you know, but he was the best. But he was just like, you know, he was an entrepreneur himself. He was a genius. He did such a broad variety of things. Like I'll give you just kind of a spectrum. Okay. So he would essentially design like laser tag vests for laser tag vests for like family fun centers.
Right.
And
Bullwinkles.
yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Holy crap.
Yeah. And would have like contracts with them to like to sell them, but then also to, if they, you know, if they needed work on it or whatever, like all the way across to like getting a grant from the government to build an emergency relief pond on a Native American reservation.
Whoa.
Okay,
Sure,
so
those
like
are super related. Why not?
super.
I'll be back tomorrow. I gotta finish my laser tag fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, well,
Okay, so he was just like nothing was like you could overcome anything.
You could do
or like
anything.
could do anything.
right.
Positive, just like, okay, well, but also like it's your bed. You're going to make your own bed. You're going to lay in it.
Yeah.
Right. So like, don't come at me with,
I'm asking for all this stuff.
just, you
Figure it out.
Figure it out. You got
Yeah.
to do it. Right. So so I just kind of had that mindset of like, okay, well, today I'm going to open a bakery and we're going to see how it goes, and we'll just kind of make it work. And, and so, so after we opened, a couple months later, my husband calls me and is like, so our whole department just got laid off.
Jeez.
And that was right. It was right when the real estate market just went to the tank.
Yep.
And he was working for a company that was directly tied to the housing industry. And so here we were, right? We had our little store and our little kids, and I had found out I was pregnant with our third, and we were like, okay, well, I sure as heck hope we can sell a lot of treats, because I had just gone from like this cush-ish, like federal,
for sure.
with your great insurance and and then he was working for this fancy pants, up and coming tech company, and then just like we had
it's all gone.
nothing
Yeah.
except some flour and some sugar and some butter. So
So how long after that did Cupcake Wars contact you?
so it was a couple years.
Okay.
It had been a couple years after that. Yeah.
Got it.
So, we had a customer who had and it was like so popular, at that time, and who had reached out and just like, hey, so they reached out to me, and, you had to put together you have to have an interview, and then if they like you enough, then you have to put together a video.
Mm-hmm.
Then if they like your video, then they have like one more level of like,
As if you didn't have enough time already, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just to make all this stuff.
I know.
How long was that process? Like from when they first
It was,
called you to where
to
you
when
found
we like
out that
went
you actually went on?
Oh, it was a few months.
Okay.
I would say it was a few months. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And by that time we had, we had our Provo store, we had opened up another one. And so, but with exposure like that,
For
it's
sure.
just kind of like instantly.
well, and what was kind of driving business up to that point? I mean, do you remember doing anything that kind of helped
Yeah. So
you guys up?
yeah. So, okay. So the whole Rachel Ray thing. Okay. So when I was, to your point about the political stuff being part of the story. So I was the youngest one in the congressional office out here in the district. So anything techie, like even remotely techie, like
My phone's not working. The printer's offline.
How do I like?
How do I get into my email? Damn it!
How do I use the copier techie? Like,
I wonder how many times you're Megan.
yes,
Megan.
just anything, right? So, and I just was like, I'll figure it out. Okay, so then I learned I was in charge of the website. Then I was in charge of it's laughable now, but like I was technically like the IT person in the office, like on my business card, right? I'm like, I know nothing. I just know like some hacks, and I can get this figured out.
You
But
turn it off and turn it on.
turn it off.
And then it works.
Yes,
Yeah.
Unplug it, plug it back
Can
in.
you-
It'll be perfect.
Yeah, you can't tell them your secret
I know.
because
No, you're right.
they
I agree.
But so then I was online and I was learning Dreamweaver, so before content management system, I was figuring out, I was playing around in Photoshop. Like I was doing all this stuff. Well, this is kind of when Twitter started to be born. Facebook was around, but it was just, you couldn't even have it if you didn't have a school email address. This was back in the day, right? I was like, dang it, I don't go to BYU anymore. I can't. Anyway, no, but so I was kind of submerged into all of that stuff. Well, then I had just people here locally in Utah who were bloggers, and they were jumping on Twitter, and they were having Twitter parties where they would like all get together and they would discuss, all the things. And so the Rachel Ray folks, they had actually read a review of one of our treats, because if we rewind to the very beginning, like there were blogs that I would read and be like, hey, such a big fan. Like, I didn't say it this way, but like my love language is to like share some treats, send me your address and I'll ship you some. Right. So I shipped her some treats, and she wrote this review, and I was like, oh my God.
So you were playing the influencer game before it was normal, before it was a thing.
And so that's where the Rachel Ray thing came about. So then, and Utah, it's an anomaly for so many reasons, but like there's so many successful bloggers here and influencers. And so it just kind of snowballed. And I was like, I never considered myself like part of that, because I was like, I don't have an active blog. I'm not like actively tweeting or like networking. I was just like, oh, you guys are going to have a party. Like, can I just like slip in some like treats there, just because I love the theme you're going with, and I think I can make a really cute cake. I wasn't thinking of it in terms of that. I just was,
It came second nature to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were online well before online was a thing.
Yeah.
So you're participating in all of that, which, then you get more, what's it? Publicity. Rachel Ray,
kind of exposure.
Cupcake Wars comes in, right?
Well, and so there was like, before we opened the store, before Cupcake Wars, there were the two kind of like monumental things. One of them was Rachel Ray. And then shortly after we actually opened, I'd kind of already been like in communication with this person, but it was someone from Disney.
Wow.
Okay.
And they reached out and they said, hey, we're doing this premiere in Hollywood of this movie. It's G-Force. Do you remember G-Force?
I don't.
No.
Oh my goodness. Well, there's probably a reason.
Man.
No, so it's this movie about like secret spy, like gerbils.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
The gerbil force.
Yeah, the gerbil force. Yeah. So anyway, but they were like, we think you would be like an awesome fit to come and cater this event.
How crazy.
Right? So I, again, similar experience with it, like feeling like it's a Nigerian prince email. And I'm like going back and forth with this sweet woman, Eileen, who I'm still in touch with. And I've done lots of events with her since then, but she didn't realize that we were in Utah, right? I had already been like, okay, 1,200 mini cupcakes to Hollywood.
Gee.
I can do that. My mom lives in Costa Mesa. I'll bake them. We'll go. So I had this whole plan already of like, we'll bake them, we'll get them down there same day, we'll frost them on site. We can make this work.
Yeah.
We have somewhere to stay. It's a quick turnaround. And so I'd made these plans. She was like, okay, I didn't realize like you were not local. I can't believe I overlooked that, I was like, no. We got this.
We're fine.
We have a store in Costa Mesa.
Yeah, exactly. So that was really helpful, because from then, and I'm just like, I think I'm just like delusional enough to just say yes to all these opportunities, right? And with my dad's kind of like, you can do anything, just realize what you're getting yourself into. You're the master of your own destiny, but sure. Like, I just was like, okay, like we'll just do it. Right. And so I just 3 years ago, I did the Thor Ragnarok premiere. Wow. And it was like,
really?
Yes, it was like
that's my favorite one. That's
is
one
it really?
For a minute, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that too so much.
Yeah. We did an Iron Man one. So I got to I got to hang out with some really cool people. Eileen.
Did you meet Thor?
I did not meet and talk to him, but I was from here to me with him.
lucky.
Talking about like just like
Should have touched him.
very casually talking about things.
Yeah.
I just
It's kind of
casually
her
did
most endearing quality.
one of
If-
the biggest premieres in
seriously,
Hollywood.
But
just the Marvel.
This
Yeah, just a
is
couple
what was
of 'em.
so crazy is so Eileen, she's so sweet, but she was like, okay, so here's the thing, like this is not the this is like the premiere for friends and family and like cast and like people who worked on the show.
Yeah.
So she's like, so you're gonna see all the people. And if you want to talk to them, she's like, just talk to them. She's like, don't be weird. And she's like, but you have to realize
It is a fine line,
the people who are here, they are all like, no one here is going to be like, would need to be like, hey, Mark Ruffalo, can I take a selfie with you?
No one's impressed because they're all friends and family.
Yes, exactly. So
They're all
like,
just
I think I played it
Right.
cool. I was just like, oh, hey, Jermaine Clements. I really liked you in, Flight of the Conchords and
dude,
Moana and
Oh
all
my
the everything.
gosh. I love Flight of the Conchords so much.
I know. It's too good. So anyway, there have been obviously like just with life and so many things, like you say yes to an opportunity and it opens up just like so many,
For sure.
so many more doors,
So what was the Cupcake Wars like?
It
Can I
was
ask?
like,
Can I ask one really quick question? Because I think
No, can't.
Sorry, real
Yes.
fast. I've been in a 20-year fight with people about donuts. No, you can't find better donuts than in California,
100%.
right?
Absolutely.
So I was going to ask
Jack's?
you with your bake. So Jack's is awesome. See, but you know how down
Jack
there
here
you
in
all
Utah?
have your own little like
Different one. No.
you all have your own little we all have our own little like neighborhood
Yeah.
donut shop.
Yeah.
They're all owned by Vietnamese people.
Absolutely.
Like ours was Days Donuts, but
Yeah.
I've always wondered there's got to be a huge difference in your product between baking at sea level
Oh, yeah.
and baking here. Like, how do you how did you adjust for that?
Oh,
Or
my
is
word.
there a big adjustment?
There is. There absolutely is. And a few times on Cupcake Wars, I think I lost that adjustment a little
Really?
bit. Well, there's
Because barbecue, there's a huge
there's
difference.
so many variables.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like,
humidity, more oxygen in the air. Like your oven's got to be
oven, all of it.
Right.
All of it. So it's so tricky. In fact,
See, I've always been so impressed with your stuff because not just because it's awesome, but it's awesome here.
Oh,
Which
sweet.
that's the thing. Like
it's a dry heat.
it's a dry heat, but altitude and
Yeah.
dry. I cooked in Austin, Texas, and you don't have to have
have-
steam warmers
Right.
and all these other things to keep things moist.
Yeah.
Yes. But so I would imagine with baking that is an even greater
Yes. It's true.
difference than
it's
with
tricky.
barbecue.
It is.
So how do you
There's a-
factor that in, like when you're doing this Disney catering job or?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and with that specific one, we baked them here and then we took them there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's a lot of dry ice happening in the back of our car.
For sure. Anyway, I just wondered if there was an obvious thing that you have to do between a place like California and here, where there's 5,000 in between, feet in between,
Yeah. Well,
and what it does.
but I mean, even the recipes are so different, right? Like a batter is so different than a dough.
Right.
You know what I mean? A frosting versus
Sure.
and so
Sure,
there's
sounds all the same to me.
sugar. But yeah, no, it in fact, like I would go when we would go to Cupcake Wars, like I would go to my mom's house, right? Because you kind of go
Practice there.
just go preloaded with like,
Right.
okay, I know a
Well, yeah, you
decent
gotta know
vanilla
what to-
recipe, so, and many a night up to the wee hours, just like,
So how many times did you have to bake for Cupcake Wars then?
so I was on it 4 times.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So 4 times.
So it was 4 times.
4 times. 4.
So she was on it 4. So 4 times.
So 4.
Okay. What was the
So-
process? Like how much time was in between? Like as you
So-
kept winning, advancing to different rounds?
I'm trying to think. Because the original question was, what was Cupcake Wars like?
Yeah.
And I was about to say it was like an election year in one day.
Yeah. I'll bet.
there's so many variables that you're not used to, right? You're like, okay, I've just come from like, my livelihood is baking all day. So like this probably can't be too far of a stretch, but I quickly realized, okay, I'm not in my own kitchen. It's not my own equipment. I have a sweet spot for my oven that has, that I know the top, like what we were talking about, like, it so intimately. And then all of a sudden you don't know anything, right? Ingredients. I'm like, hey, the butter here is going to be, the cream cheese might have a different moisture. Like, I don't know.
Plus,
any of the things.
Control over your finished product either. Cause it's like, we're going to take pictures now.
Yes.
You'll see it. We're going to eat it in 2 hours. And you're like, wait, what? It's going to suck in 2 hours. It's going to dry out.
So there were a lot of just like, but my thing is like, I keep going back to my dad, and I'll loop this all in at one point, but like my dad never took himself too seriously. Right. And as a little kid, like he would always say to us, like, he'd be like, you're unique, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
So
that's a really
that's
cool
awesome.
Thing. Wow.
So like
you're unique, just like everybody else.
So in some way, it's like you're special, but like
so's everyone.
So is everyone. And so I just kind of like
that's not true.
I'm
just kidding.
You're the most special. I just like went into it with like, okay, what's the worst that could come from this? Like exposure on on Food Network, not bad. Right?
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
And so it was crazy. It was crazy.
I think that's a really important, that quote's really cool.
Yeah.
But it is true. Like, don't take yourself very seriously. I mean, you could very well take yourself really seriously based on your resume, right?
No, I couldn't, but
it's funny. Like, I always find it so refreshing to meet successful people where it's like, some of the stuff we were talking about within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's like we've all known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's such a cool thing. And I think so many people assume something different about people in your position, that have done all these cool things. And it's like, hey, they're just normal people too. And
I'm just the hired help. I'm serious.
I mean, it's kind of true,
I'm
right?
serious.
Right? It is not a lot of times it's not very glamorous to be the owner.
I swear, and people, thank you, by the way. I think I think that was.
It was totally a compliment. And I wasn't even done.
No,
but you
sorry.
can finish it.
Keep going. No. I mean, just stop it some more.
Tell me I'm good.
The thing I like most about this type of thing, and we see it a lot in here on the podcast, is just reminding people that you can do it. Like you can do it too.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you don't have any money. It doesn't matter if you think you don't have time. If there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
It's like Don. It's like if Don can do it, you can do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what
I would not imagine. I think that's one of the biggest things that we want to accomplish with the podcast is helping people take that first step to kind of fulfill their dreams. And so
absolutely.
People like you are so accessible and so willing to help, but man, it's so cool to hear the story. And the way you tell it, it's almost like you don't realize how much of your life was leading up to Sweet Tooth Fairy. It was like almost not laid out for you, like here it is. But
looking back,
everything
it's really
benefited the end game.
Yeah.
Like you brought tools from so many different areas.
Totally.
And all along you thought you were just on the ride, right?
Yeah.
You just were just living.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
It's so cool to piece it all together in the end and just kind of see
Yeah.
why that all.
Oh, totally. Well, and that like kind of goes to my dad, right? So, you know, because people are always like, well, what's your why? You know, you got it. And when people, you know, when I've talked with people about like a podcast or even just someone that's like wanting to start a business, you know, whatever, it's like you have to understand and know why you're doing something.
Right.
Okay. So I can very surely say that I didn't know why I was doing it until the day, actually kind of really till the day that we opened our store. So, and I'll come back to that. And if I get a little emo, just forget it. But So my dad was like the best person in the world. Okay. And he was all about, like, he's super outdoorsy, loved to fish, loved to hunt, loved to just go to the beach and, roast hot dogs down. He was just so fun. Because he was an entrepreneur, your schedule's a little bit more flexible than it is like, being gone from, 9 to 6 or whatever. So he was around here and there, he's just so great. So when we were little, I remember I had cousins in Irvine, and they're my favorite, still super close with them. And there was this one instance that like sticks out in my mind where Dad, he wanted to do something like as our like nuclear kind of family. And my cousin, we kind of had this group of people from like different areas, like kind of Newport, Irvine, and everyone was kind of like hanging out. And I was like, the FOMO is real, like I wanted to be with this group. And so it was kind of this conversation that we kind of had in passing. And he was like, I'm like, I want to like go to the mall and like do that, I'd be with my friends and my people. And he said to me, like, Meg, like he kind of just like looked at me, and like the only way that your dad can look at you is like, we're makers of memories. That's what we do, And I, kind of adolescent teeny bopper, I'm like, I want to go to Aunt Anne's and get a pretzel, go to Wet Seal with my cousins and my friends. I don't want to make memories with my family. Thank you very much. No. And so, but that always like stuck with me. Right. So then it's kind of always been peppered throughout my experience, and so when I was 24, my sweet cousin called me, and I actually was on a business retreat at Pablo Creek Canyon golfing. I'm not a golfer. And something felt off. Something felt so off and so weird. I actually borrowed one of my coworkers' cars and came home. I was just like, today's weird. I went to my house. I just like laid on my bed, turned off my Nokia phone and was just laying there. Well, people kept calling me. I was like, what is going on? I'm tired. Anyway, my cousin, and she was just going through a bad breakup. I'm like, oh, she's probably like calling to tell me about her and they're not together and like whatever. I just didn't have any energy to like deal with anything. Well, she called me. She was just sobbing on the other line. And she's like, I'm so sorry about your dad. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was like, he had just been there 3 nights, but like 3 nights before he'd come to Utah, left his dog. He went on a boys trip down the Paiute Trail out in Richfield, and he died. Just gonzo. Wow. And so, when you get that call and you're 20-something-year-old, you're not prepared. No one is prepared for a phone call to be like, oh, your hero who you saw and were eating, Alberto's taquitos with 3 nights ago is now gone. So, so from then on, like, you have all the questions and you kind of wonder, and there's a ton of reflection, and you're trying to figure yourself out and figure everything else out. And I always felt like he left us and he taught us with what is like most important. When he's telling me when I'm a teeny bopper, like probably sassy pants, brat face, like we're makers of memories. Like that's what we do. Right. I'm like, he was preparing me, for this moment and these times in my life where, guess what? That's all you have at the end of the day. That's all we're left with at the end of the day is like those moments, those memories, that time, those like, just like the nuggets of wisdom that you get from people that you spend time with, that you love, and that you choose to make those memories with. Right. So fast forward, and when we were opening Sweet Tooth Fairy, I had this it's like out of a movie, right? Where the sound closes in and people are like moving in slow motion. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, cause I'm sitting here and I'm seeing like people that are supporting me, close family and friends, but just people in the community. And whether it was like, you know, a couple or a mom and a daughter, or, you know, just people coming to the store, having a moment, making a memory, eating something delicious. Like it reminded me of when I was little and I'd go to the barber with my mom and my brothers and they'd get a gumball. Like like we were talking about earlier, food, there's like this an association of like, you're not like, oh my gosh, that was the best gumball ever. But you're like, I remember I remember being with my people and having this experience. And I remember the way that then the barber pole turned. And it's such a vivid feeling and like emotional response, you know, that you get. And so I was sitting there and I was just watching all these people come in and I was like, I think that's what I'm doing. Like my mom obviously taught me so much just about like the artistry of baking and cooking, you know, and she and my dad, just the nature of their relationship and how they were on the same team and they didn't keep score. And it was just like supporting each other to do what they, you know, their interests and what they wanted to do. You know, I'm like, and with my dad just like reminding me like, this is what's important. Like people and moments and memories, like that's what matters. Right. So then, I mean, that was, I have lots of takeaways from my, you know, short amount of time I feel like I had with him, but like, that's why Sweet Tooth Fairy is what it is. Right. Because, you know, even though now so much has changed, right. And like we've opened stores, we've closed stores, we've moved stores, we've consolidated, like it's all about celebrating those special moments and those moments are the people, right? Well, and so
it's cool because you get to participate in everybody's moments.
Yes.
Right. By you making that cake or the cupcake, you're participating in their memories that they're making.
Absolutely.
You know, and you know that you're helping. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's the warm and fuzzy answer, right? That we, you know, the fact that we're at all the weddings and the baby blessings and the birthdays and, you know, the promotions or the funerals, the whatever it is, it's like there's a little slice, a little piece, like a little nugget of Sweet Tooth Fairy there with you. And like for me and my experience and, you know, going through what we've gone through in all the areas, like that's what's most important. That's what's most important to me. And like just making people feel like special and remembered and thought of, right? Like I actually kind of had this moment a couple weeks ago with our good friends. We were over there chatting with them and like, so the quote about like, you're unique, just like everyone else. Right. And some, on the one hand, you could be like, well, yeah, that just means that like you're special. And then on the other hand, you're kind of like, well, wait a minute, that could also kind of maybe feel like you're not special.
Right.
You know, and then I'm going like, did I feel special growing? Like, did I feel special? And I don't think I felt loved and secured and like I knew I could do anything and I had the confidence to do it. But I don't think I ever, I mean, I'm sure at some point I did, but just, you know, my kind of rewriting history and like merging all my experiences, I was like, I don't remember feeling like, oh my gosh, like, wow, you know?
Right.
And so for me, like when I do all these like, cause I just do all those cakes that we were chatting about before and stuff too, like that's just on the side. That's me. That's like my creative like energy aside from like running the business and dealing with, you know, P&Ls and, you know, I say dealing with employees. They're wonderful. But I just mean like all the nuances.
Not always.
People not
always.
showing up. Yeah.
Not always.
But like
we can be honest here.
Yeah.
This is a safe space.
Yeah. It like goes back to, it's like therapeutic for me to just go back to the like, oh, this is the art. Now it's the artistry part of it. We're like, okay, I love this person so much. What do I know about this person? Or like, tell me your favorite things. And then I just can kind of channel them and like make a cake. And it's just part of me being like, you are so special. Like you are thought of, you are heard of, you know, like, and my love language just all kind of morphed into one.
Well, and in return, it makes you feel special.
Yes.
Right? And that's one of the things, like, I think that's a very healthy thing to talk about, because it's still the thing that, you know, I don't go in the dining room much anymore just because I gab, and if I go out there, I'll be stuck for 3-4 hours. But there's still nothing better than seeing somebody just like, you know, if you're behind the counter working, you look out and someone bites into a rib or something, and you just kind of see them sit back.
Yeah. like the food. Yeah.
It's the greatest.
Yes.
It's like a drug almost. And it, you know, you had done that for so long, and it's such a positive, like, why wouldn't you want to turn that into a business? Like, not only like, do I feel special and feel like I'm good at something, but I get to watch what
like
my
even
hard
more
work
so,
make other people happy.
Yes.
At the same time.
Yes. It's like even more so than that. It's like, okay, yay. Like all these.
Well, and then
people,
providing
you know?
jobs for people, which is another, I don't think anybody ever starts a business going, or even maybe realizing how cool that feels too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Until,
totally.
you know, you're going, but it's,
yeah.
you know, it's risk and reward. I mean, that's probably the biggest difference between an entrepreneur and somebody that just, you know, works at, I don't know, a normal job. I don't know how to say it, but it's a lot of risk.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to put in the work, there's a lot of reward too.
Yeah.
And it's a really, really cool thing, because obviously, I mean, what a cool legacy to your dad.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, like, that is a legacy, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's yours, but based on what you just told us, so much of it seems to stem from what he taught you and shared with you. And you're right. Like, food, how often do we relate food or remember
Always.
or remember an event because of the food?
Or you go on a vacation, you remember like where you ate
For sure.
Yeah.
on that trip, right? There's always just that connection with it.
Yeah.
Always.
Oh, man.
And now I'm starving.
I want to eat so bad right now. It's probably good she didn't bring in the cup.
I know of a really good barbecue joint.
Oh, seriously, I actually feel like barbecue today, which is kind of rare for me. But yeah, and I mean, and you've met so many cool people and seen. You're so nice.
We could have another
for
episode
what you've done. Like,
nice.
you could really be an
you.
a-hole if you wanted to be. Like, you are a baller.
What? No.
I mean, you are.
No, you're so.
It makes me like you even more. Like, you seem so
nice of you.
just kind and humble, and you've accomplished a lot of really cool things.
It's really
So,
Well, and you do a lot of cool
you.
stuff, because a lot of our friends, or
right.
they've always talked, oh yeah, and then she brought this and she did this. Super under the radar, not looking for any publicity, notoriety, you know. And it's super cool that there's always, like, it's funny, most of the guests, when something bad has happened, your name has come up. You know, that you've shown up, you've been there, you've done something for it. So that's going back to a legacy. Like, that's a pretty cool thing to have.
Well, thanks.
So
I bet your pops is a pretty awesome guy.
Coolest.
And, you know, Paiute Trail is a pretty awesome place. Like, I'm sure that's what I'm saying. I hope that doesn't seem.
No, it's
but,
not.
You know, he was obviously there with people he cared about.
Totally.
And, you know, maybe that's one positive, because we never know when that day comes. But
no, the crazy thing too is, like, so our oldest son, so like about 2 years after he passed away, we had our first boy, and Ethan and I were married when our first boy was born. Ethan and I were not married when my dad passed away.
Right.
So when Ethan and I dated for like 2 years. When I met Eth, he had just lost his best friend, like his brother, like to suicide.
Ugh.
So for like a year, right, he's grieving, and I don't know. I had just met him, right? So that navigating all of that together, almost exactly a year later, my dad unexpectedly passes away.
Wow.
Right. So then almost a year exactly later, we get married. And then almost a year later, our oldest is born. Well, he's a NICU baby. He's in the NICU when, he's fine now, but they basically have like a mix and mingle for the NICU parents, here at Utah Valley. And, the craziest thing, when we were there visiting, they kind of have you go around and just say like where you're from. And one of the couples there was from Richfield.
Right.
So after, we're eating our little cookie from Smith's and our apple juice that they pass around. And so my mom was there with me because she had flown in from California just to be there. And so we went up and we're talking with him. And I kid you not, he was an EMT that carried my dad down the mountain.
Holy crap.
What?
So, yeah. So we had that because there were lots of so many questions, right? And as we got to talking with him, you were like, oh, Richfield's a special place to us, and we're describing, and we make the connection, and we were able to have a really sacred, cool moment with him. And it just
that's the ultimate closure of
totally
that whole event.
Yes, for sure.
The ending of one, the beginning of another, right? All of that stuff.
Yeah. It was just, and that's, call him what you want. God, higher power, whatever it is, that's where you're like, okay, I am special. And I feel like someone else, something is acutely aware of me and my needs. And, cause what are the chances?
For sure. I mean,
yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, to talk to somebody that was, cause I'm sure that when that happens, I don't really have any experience with that, but there's got to be a part of you that wishes that you were there.
Oh,
or you know what I mean? And so to get that first person point of view and to kind of fill in that
gaping hole.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
for sure.
And what you just said is great. Cause I feel like we all kind of lean on the bad things that happen to us, right? You hear about people there's no way there can be a God because of this, and this. But then you think of stuff like that where it's just...
It's perspective.
He's looking out for you, and here's something to kind of comfort you. And ultimately, that's why we're all here. Yeah. Right? We really all should be helping each other out.
Totally.
There's power in numbers. And the heavy majority of people are good, except when they're driving. There's a lot of you that don't deserve to have driver's licenses. But... Oh my... But, humans are good. And because of the media and everything else, we forget that. Yeah. We're less connected. COVID's been horrible for that, too. And it's amazing how much comfort we can get through our fellow man, right? Yeah. Even when we don't know him.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, you just got to be there for people. And, from, like Andrew was saying, I think everybody knows somebody that has gone through a hard thing, and you guys were there to help them out. And
that's nice.
And it's funny, I love doing the same thing with the restaurant, and you don't think anything big of it. When Betsy came in, Mike Sell, I don't know if you know the Mike Sell family, but just getting that reminder from her as they were going through surviving their plane crash, how big of a deal.
Took cupcakes to the whole floor. Duh. That was just one of the examples.
That's right, right? Her talking about just people bringing over dinner, it made them feel so loved and supported, and by small things, right? Yeah. And so
true.
What a cool story. And who doesn't get cheered up by sugar, especially when an artist is handling the sugar and using it the proper way?
You officially called me an artist.
You are an artist.
Oh, that's so nice.
I mean, you worried about where the sprinkle was going way before you were even in business, right?
That's true.
And that's true. The thing, in the baking world, I feel like I'm really good at what I do, but I don't really look at it as art because it's not as cosmetic. Well, I definitely care about it, but
yes.
With baking, it's incredible what people are doing with cakes now. Its presentation is huge. Yeah. And we do eat with our eyes, right?
Yeah, for sure.
There's nothing better than when something looks crazy. Because how many times do you look at a cake and it's this theme thing and it just looks crazy, but then you bite into it and you're like, oh, this is nasty. All dry. All they cared about was what it looked like on the inside. Yeah. There was no dry heat. Well, it was dry. But how much better is it when it's beautiful and then you bite into it and it tastes even better than it looks?
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you ship?
Yeah.
Anywhere?
Yeah. So Sweet Tooth Fairy. Okay. So we have our central warehouse and our headquarters are in Bluffdale. We have a central kitchen there and we do all of our e-commerce out of there.
Okay.
So we have, so we ship out of there, but the individual locations don't ship.
Got it.
And there are certain things we don't ship. Like we don't ship our cupcakes just because they would look so sad. I know. I have shipped cakes before to my friends and it works. It's just like it's expensive
totally,
because
you gotta ship it fast
and the dry ice
separate,
and then it's just so but yeah, no, we ship all over.
So if you're not in Utah, you can get a bit of the Sweet Tooth Fairy.
Yeah.
But for everyone around, go into the stores. Where are your stores at?
So we have St. George, Orem, Bluffdale, Foothill, like Salt Lake City, and then Layton.
Okay.
Yeah.
You pronounce Layton correctly. That's
because
good. You can tell you're from California. I like that. It's not Layton.
My kids.
It's Layton.
So no, this is what's so funny. My kids, I'm not exaggerating. The mountains here are
mountains,
but they're gorgeous. They never cease. They're breathtaking.
For sure.
I just am like,
we take it for granted for sure.
Day I say to my kids, look at those mountains, right? And so when my kids were
like,
little,
what are those?
no,
what are mountains?
From the time
I know
my
what
kids
mountains
were
are.
little,
She is silent, Mom. Everyone knows that.
Anytime they say the mountain, I go, the what? And they're like, the mountain. I'm like, thank you, sweetie. It's very obviously.
We found this beautiful creek up in the mountains.
Yeah.
It was so cold.
Where was it?
Layton.
Layton.
Or Tremont.
It's above Layton. It was a real
They're
special
both
day.
just openly mocking me
Real.
right now.
Real.
Was it for sale?
Yeah. I love the double E. It's ILL. It's like dill pickles. Like, what a deal.
I hate
what
both
a
of
deal.
you guys right now. I'm from California too. I just know how to adapt to my surroundings, okay?
Yes.
It's funny. I've never really noticed the Utah, like how
the drawl
until recently. Like there are some very Utah specific, like Thanksgiving.
For
like,
the ink.
Everyone says the G at the end, and it's a very Utah Thanksgiving. Have you ever noticed that? Listen to somebody say anything with an ing at the end in Utah, and you'll hear the G.
It often.
I'm going to make fun of you too.
We're not making fun.
I've been made fun of like 4 times today already. So give me a break. I'm just kidding. Now that I know you better, it doesn't offend me.
Yeah, good. I would never.
I know you
would never hurt your.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Seriously.
This was so
You're
fun.
welcome.
And everyone, go make yourself feel better.
Make yourself feel better.
Go make a memory
I'm about
and
to
buy
Yes.
a cake, a cupcake.
So I also, just a tiny little plug. So a few years ago, I partnered with a local scrapbook company and have been helping develop food. It's called food crafting.
Okay.
Wow.
Food crafting products and stuff. So if you're not near a Sweet Tooth Fairy, or if you like to bake and stuff, I have a line in Michael's, with sprinkles.
Hold on, what?
No big deal.
Yeah.
That's her new nickname.
I know.
Iron Man
Yeah,
told me
it's
to
not
do it.
MFB anymore. It's
When I was
MBB.
talking to Thor and Iron Man, they're like, hey,
Whatever.
you should go into Michael's. So I was like, fine.
I make these round cupcakes. It's the shape of Thor's rear. It was very inspiring. And
No. So you can go into your local Michael's store and get some fun things and whip up
And what's it called again?
Sweet Tooth Fairy by Megan Faulkner Brown.
Oh, that's what it is in Michael's.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
so it's just kind of you give them the ingredients, they put them together.
Yeah. So there's a ton of sprinkles because everything is better with sprinkles.
Right.
Even toast is better. But yeah, no, and there's cupcake toppers and
No
stuff
way.
to decorate with cakes. There's mixes and
That's really
yeah,
cool.
there's a bunch of stuff. So
Well,
yeah.
go check it out.
We need it. Yeah. I'm excited for 2.0. I feel like we missed a lot.
2.0.
We're going to have to do another one.
Is that an official invitation to come back?
Oh, you can come back whenever you want.
I accept.
Done.
But yeah, that was, I still feel like we
Binding.
very
It's
quickly reviewed, it sounds
didn't
like
get-
there's a lot more
No.
We
in there.
barely talked about the business at all.
Oh.
Right. Well, but
But it
kinda
was
feel
so
like
fun.
the business is her.
It is.
And
That's what I'm saying is there's so much
Oh,
more
for
to
sure.
be able to dive in.
for sure. And we'll have you back with Eth,
Yes.
as you call him.
Yes. Eth. He's the best.
So
Ethan.
Ethan. I like
Yeah.
Eth though. That's kind of cool.
Here's the funny thing. When he was
If you're in
serving-
Utah, it's Eaton.
Ethan.
when he was serving up at Sundance, he'd be like, it's so funny. Everyone will be like, you know, the customers will be like, oh, I have a nephew named Ethan. He's like, yeah, are they 5 or younger? Name me an Ethan that's like our age. They don't exist.
Kind of true. We have an Ethan nephew, but he's older.
Oh.
Well,
29?
less.
Yeah, he's not quite your age, but yeah.
He's not quite as old. He's not as old as you.
Not as old. Okay.
Well, thanks for coming.
Yes.
Thank you.